Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and welcome to CBT Therapy episode 10. And this is chapter 8, which is about our social skills, developing social skills, which, kind of an ableist view on certain things, um, especially if you're have autistic, ADHD, social anxiety. If you have that kind of stuff, some of it might be a little bit hurtful, but we do need to have social skills in order to navigate the world. So these are some tips, but this isn't to take as an etiquette book or rules that you have to follow, because it's this chapter is good for people even who don't have many problems dealing with social settings, because some people might find you super sociable, but that's different. So there isn't a trick that's going to work for everybody that you talk to. So it will never be perfect, but this is just trying to, communicate with people in a way that works, certainly. So how to listen, active listening, this is a big thing. We INFPs, we think that we know how to listen. We are really good listeners, and we've probably heard people say that we're good listeners. But it's one thing to naturally think that's you listen, and it's another to actually actively, purposefully listen. As INFPs, we're kind of like sponges, so we take on the stuff, and we're putting ourselves into situations and really interested in the people that we're talking to. But we're not doing this in a logical way. So this is kind of how to break it down. Here, first of all, it talks about our fallacies that we've talked about before in social anxiety. We focus on the negative aspects of what people say. For example, if they're giving you feedback, or if you're not listening exactly because you're taking things personally, that kind of thing. So it's important to understand this to manage socially. Some obstacles is, for example, comparing yourselves to other people. Because if you're comparing yourself, you're not putting yourself on an equal footing. And if you have social anxiety, then you might have envy for the people who are successful and sociable, and that means that you get inferiority feelings and you get more anxious. And also, you have a harder time following the conversation because you're so focused on this person is so much better than me, that kind of thing. I know that I did this a lot when I was a teenager. I was friends with pretty popular people, and I was not popular. That's an objective thing, but me looking up to them, I was having a hard time, them talking to me. They saw me as an equal, but I was not seeing them as an equal. So that's an obstacle for active listening. Another thing is filtering what people say. So if you see what is negative or critical, what they said was pretty neutral statement. Another one, this one has been a problem for me, is to repeat in your head what you are going to say next. And that is not how you listen. because you're just preparing for what you want to say, and so it gets self-centered on you, and also you might be preparing something that will suddenly become irrelevant. I mean, we do have NE, so we can figure things out quickly on the fly, but it's kind of like, maybe somebody will twirl the conversation into another topic, and then like suddenly what you were about to say is not relevant anymore. And so that is a hinder for active listening. Another one is to change topics of conversation. And that is something that we do because we're trying to avoid a certain subject. So we're like, oh, let's talk about this instead. And often people with social anxiety will do, like, if somebody asks about our lives, we push it away from us and like start talking about, oh, but how about you, I think that that's more a thing for iffy users, because they don't really want to talk about themselves, but I do think INFPs, we do this too. I just think I hang out with too many FE users to know anymore. Like it feels like I'm really like centered on talking about me, but it's different when I'm with, like, say, an ESTJ. I don't talk about my life as much with them. So if you change the topic, then it might seem to the other person that you're avoiding what they wanted to talk about. So that's not good. Another one is because you're scared of being criticized, is that you try to not say your own opinions. So you're always agreeing with everybody else's opinion. And so people want to have a reaction when they talk at times. And if you're just nodding along all the time, then people might think that you're uninterested in what they're saying. Which is funny, but it's kind of like, but that is that is a problem for INFPs, because we are called the mediator in 16 personalities or whatever it is. I think Enneagram 9s have a hard time with this, especially because we want everybody to get along, so we're going to agree to everybody's statement. But by agreeing to everybody's statement, then you're not actually agreeing with any of them. So those are all obstacles to active listening. So what should you do for active listening? So it's not about being passive and not just sitting there and taking stuff into your ears. It's actually doing certain things. So one of them is eye contact, which, as you already know, I have a little bit of a difficulty with. There once came a nurse, and while she was talking, I was looking at the computer screen, and she was like, listen to me. And I was like, I am listening. And she was like, but you're not, you're turning away. And I'm like, oh yeah. It's just, for me, it's hard to look at somebody in the eyes while I'm talking to them, because I'm starting to think about their eyes, rather than what they're saying. A lot of people like doodle in class because that makes them remember better, makes them hear better. So that's where I but I do understand that in the world that we live in, people like having eye contact with you. So they just say, like, try it out. Another one is mirroring what somebody said or summarizing what they said. This is something that we learn in medical school, that we summarize what the person has said. And that, like, somebody is like talking about their stuff, but don't repeat exactly what they said. So they're like, oh, I'm really stressed out at work, says the person. It's not good to just repeat it and say, oh, you're really stressed out at work. It's more like, oh, you're having a hard time at work, or your work is very stressful, or you have a lot to do at work, and that kind of thing. So that's mirroring, and that makes that a person feel like validated in how you talk. Another one is ask for like a clarification. So tell me more about this, like that kind of thing. That is something that we also do in medical school. Is sometimes like, you know, it's like yes, no questions are good for certain things, but we need to have open questions in order to get people to just talk, you know. And if you're just like not saying anything or just saying yeah, that it doesn't seem like you're listening as much as if you're asking for like, oh, what do you mean by that? Or tell me more, or that kind of thing. Another one is give feedback, honest feedback. For example, somebody says an opinion and you give your own reaction to that. I don't think that we INFPs have a hard time with that, but I think that we are sometimes scared of saying our own reaction to, because we don't want to hurt somebody else. So do it in a subtle way, you know, don't like say, oh, everything that you said is shit. So the training, the little exercise that's here is basically have a conversation with a person by doing the active listening. You know, what was it more a better conversation? Do you feel like you were more, that you had less anxiety while you were having this conversation? Or like, did you learn something about that other person? That kind of thing. Then there's stuff about nonverbal communication. This, you can't really control that. I think that some people are really good at controlling their nonverbal communication, but it's hard to do this, you know? Like, if you've never really done this before. This book makes me feel like I actually am autistic, but I'm not, that I know of. It's just, there are these signs. I mean, also, this depends on the culture. Like in France, we really move our hands a lot. In Sweden, people don't. So when I first came to Sweden, people thought that I was like, wow, so crazily animated, because I would always use my hands. And I would have my facial expressions and stuff. When actually, that's like, I was really, really like non-expressive for a French person. So yeah. 2 seconds. So here they talk about how nonverbal communication can actually, that like they're kind of secure, like safety behaviors, like standing like alone in a corner at a party with like your arms crossed and like looking down at the floor, kind of is not inviting for people to talk to you, because like they think that you're uninterested in talking to people. So there's a balance to strike, basically. So not too much, not too little. In Sweden, we call that lagom, which is the most Swedish word of all. It's basically just right, just right. All Swedish people find this to be the best word in the world. I don't know, just right is the translation. I don't really think that it needs to have a word, but Swedish people are very proud of that word. So they say, like, what can you do? So an exercise that you could do is to look at, like, to exchange your previous behavior with another behavior. Like, for example, instead of leaning back in your chair, it's you could try sitting a little bit more in front in your chair, or standing far away from a person instead of going close, or avoiding eye contacts or keeping eye contact, talking quietly or talking loudly, crossing your arms or having your arms to your sides, holding your hands in fists rather than having them open, looking very serious or smiling, mumbling or talking clearly. This one is bad for me. It's having bad posture, okay? I like holding yourself like that instead of stretching yourself out, okay? I have a problem with that, but I keep trying to remind myself that open up the breast cage. So then they have the art of conversation, okay? This feels like I'm reading an etiquette book from the 1900s. Anyway, there are certain ways of like starting a conversation, and so that the conversation doesn't die out, and so that this is, you know, this is supposed to flow naturally, but and some people might react negatively to like these exercises. But let's see. So how to start a conversation? So sometimes you have to, because like you have to ask somebody a question, you know, or that kind of thing. Or you're with strangers in a line, and so it's like, okay, you can talk to people on the bus, or when you're in an elevator, or that kind of thing, or the lift if you're British, and you can talk to like your coworkers in the lunchroom, or that kind of thing, or at the party. So, for example, come early to the party so that you mingle with people. I usually come slightly late to a party just so that I'm not like the first person there, because I don't like mingling. But this is what we have to do. We have to mingle, okay? Or like you can try to sit on the same spot when you go to a lecture, next to some strangers, and getting to know the people that are there. I did talk to a resident from another healthcare center when I went to a conference, and we ended up actually talking and learning about our workplace and what we thought about the lectures and stuff. But well, he took the lead. He started the conversation, but I joined in. But here, this is like you're the one who's supposed to do the first step, okay? So this is a little bit difficult, for me at least. But I do this when I'm around people that I know already. So it will get easier with time. It's like, look at what non-verbal communication you're sending, like you're sending out to the world, okay? Try to speak clearly, look at the person in the eye when you say the thing, and it's good to ask a question to start. Something that's friendly, small talk, okay? We're trying to live in the world of SJs, okay? We are going to act like ESFJs and do this. So, we're going to start with a question like, oh, do you have anything going on the weekend? Or, oh, nice haircut. Where do you go and get your haircut? Or oh, I see that you're not driving your regular car. Did you buy a new car? I don't know this kind of thing, so this will never work, but okay. Or you present yourself to a new coworker or whatever. You're like, oh, we haven't said hi yet. My name is this. Another thing is oh, did you read in the newspaper about this thing? Or did you see the news, or that kind of thing? But try to avoid things like politics, religion, and relationships, that kind of thing. It's the classic faux pas. So that is that. It's now getting to 20 minutes, so I'll keep the rest into another chapter, because it's going to be like how to ask questions, how to stop a conversation, and the biggest one is how to say no. Okay, so I think that is going to be an interesting one. So yeah, I not my favorite chapter, must I say. I think that it's nerve-wracking to think about like how you're presenting yourself in public. I don't know if other INFPs have trouble with this. Anyway, that's all for now. At the moment, I don't have a psychologist, so things are going pretty slowly on that front. But I do want to do that next chapter. And then the last chapter, I think that chapter 9, which will be episode 11, no, 12. Episode 12 will be the last chapter in this. So two more episodes and then we're done. And then we'll see if I get another CBT therapy or something like that. And then maybe we can start a new series. We'll see. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.